Well, welcome everyone. My name is Brian Mauger. I'm the sales director here at ShowFlow. Really excited to be doing a webinar today, and I want to thank you for taking some time out of your day to join us. We're doing what we call a customer spotlight webinar. Today we actually have two customers coming at you that we've invited in. Kyle Campbell, who's the director of game experience for the New Orleans Pelicans and Saints. We got a combo there. And then Heather Molander, senior coordinator, event presentation for the Miami Marlins. So thank you, Kyle and Heather, for joining us today. They're going to be walking us through their game scripting workflow. Kyle, before you jump in and really walk through your workflow, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about how you got into the position that you're in today?
Yeah, so thanks again for having me, Brian Sharif. So this will be my 8th season doing Saints here, my 5th in the show calling director role, and then I'm heading into my 3rd Pelican season, calling our shows, working closely with our manager, Chrissy Flores, who she's really our show caller, but I've helped kind of groom her to get here. But I was born and raised in Connecticut, proud UConn grad. Ultimately, I took an internship down here during college for the Hornets, and then had stops at University of Virginia, and some other things in between, and then ended up back down here in 2015 as our production manager, where I helped oversee us opening a new video board, unveiling new video boards in both the arena and the dome, and a new control room as well that powers both facilities. So got to really kind of see a big evolution of things. And then this is now our, I want to say 3rd or 4th season using ShowFlow. So I was hesitant at first, but I'm all in on this now for sure. So that's where I am, how I got here.
Awesome. Well, yeah, let's jump in to, it looks like you're on the team dashboard here.
Yep.
So what are we looking at?
Yeah, so we have one profile for both of our teams, but then we split up our events based off of team. So just to kind of talk everybody through, where we have our Pelicans profile that I'm very particular about keeping things organized and making sure things are in the correct folders. And so we have our Saints from last year, which I'll jump into in a second. We have our Pelicans from last year, and then our Saints for this year. We just haven't started building our Pelicans yet for this upcoming year. But within each of these, I have a pretty hefty folder structure. During COVID, especially, honestly, and we've continued moving forward with it, we utilize ShowFlow as basically a server for us. Everybody knows that getting onto VPNs is like getting access to Fort Knox basically these days, and it's always a pain to do that. And so we're like, why not just use this online platform where we can do basically everything we need to, import documents, build documents, all that kind of stuff. So I do everything from our game scripts on here. We have our champion squares, our pregame like event. We have an event from our draft boil that we have, a huge crawfish boil. We have different calendars landing things out. We've got our scripts that are specifically for halftime. We've got player music where I work with our football ops, where I say, hey, what music does Alvin Kamara want this week? And I build out a document and a whole run a show with that. Our timelines, that's something that I need to submit. I'll show you guys really quick. This is something I need to submit to the NFL every week. And it's basically a mini version of our script that is just detailing. It's more of a dumbed down version, believe it or not, more assigning people to tasks for our game entertainment, game experience group versus a overall kind of overarching script. But we build this, and I have somebody on my staff that makes sure that this is accurate, up to date, based off of our scripting with everything that we do there.
Quick question there, Kyle. How are you sharing that? Is that something that the greater organization needs to see, and how are you sharing it?
We share it with printing on game day, so everybody has it. I send out a guest pass link to all of our game day staff, anybody whose name's listed on here, on usually Friday before the game. Hey, here's what your call time is. Here's what times we're doing what. Yeah, so this is something that it's guest pass, but it's printed as well on game day.
Okay, cool.
And that goes for the scripts too, but I'll jump more into that in a minute. We talk about, I get from the NFL, they give us timing for TV networks. I have, honestly, for our associates, our interns here, I have them get into ShowFlow and introduce them by saying, hey, we get a PDF from them, make this in ShowFlow. So I have it so you can work on your duration building, going off your kickoff times, all of that. So, but it's also something that's helpful for us to actually have access to readily, because not every sport's like this, but with the NFL, kickoff time changes and your pregame schedule changes based off of what network and what time slot you're in.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is any miscellaneous documents we kind of house in here. Any schedules, any timelines, anything like that, we house it all in ShowFlow here.
Cool. Are any of these documents not created in ShowFlow? Like, are you actually dropping in PDFs or?
No, everything's actually in ShowFlow. I've tried with some PDFs, but I feel like I just want to kind of be all in on one way or the other.
Okay.
And so because we rely so much on ShowFlow already, I'm pretty heavy on that, obviously.
Yeah, one thing that, not a lot of customers know about is that you can upload any file in here. So it doesn't have to be something that's created in ShowFlow. You can actually just drag and drop into any of these folders. So that could be like maybe thumbnails of some of the graphics that are going to be going up, or audio files if there's a particular asset there. So, and it really can be anything outside of a zip file you can drag and drop into this.
Cool. So, but I'll talk you guys through kind of how I start the season. This is something I literally just did about 2 weeks ago, with starting a new event. So I've built out I'll show you guys just to kind of give you a glimpse. My script is pretty robust. And I have a lot of information in here, a lot of columns, a lot of cues with different things. This actually isn't even showing all of the columns. But so this is pretty hefty in here with things. But so when I'm starting a new season, like we are about to, I will just take usually the last game that we did, just because they usually has the most up-to-date stuff in there if it's not already updated in the gem. But I would take this, copy to another event, and let's bring it into our 2022 season. Copying that over, and then I'm able to jump into from here, which is a nice little shortcut, into our other event here for 2022 Saints. And I see this, I automatically am going to always drag and drop it into my scripts to keep that organization there. And then what I would do, a big thing that I immediately do, so I would change the rundown settings, make this game 1. We're playing the Chargers on 08/26. Change the date here. Boom, save that. And then I can jump into the script. First thing I always do, or have somebody on my staff do, is immediately look at our kickoff time. Our kickoff time for this game was a 3:25 game for that last game against Carolina last year. And this, I'm not getting paid by ShowFlow to say this. This is worth the money in itself by far. I think Heather would agree to this. If you just change your time, of course, doesn't want to work for me right this second. Why is that not taken? Hold on. If I make this a 7:10 kickoff, all my time funnels up. And this is legitimately probably my favorite feature of the entire program. Is just no Excel math can screw this up. Sure, it takes some time to build this out for the first templated script you have, but once you have it, everything is done for you, and it saves you a lot of pain and anguish of doing math and making sure your formulas are right.
Yeah, that's awesome. We've asked the question to most customers, what's your favorite feature in ShowFlow? And by far the response is the automated timing. So when you change the order of these rows or you delete things, you're not breaking any formulas like you would be if you were to even use formulas in Excel. So that's awesome. And I see that you had, like, you had initially changed, what was that, the kickoff time?
Yep.
And then you had a flag pointing up the show, which is, I forget what we call it. I think it's auto reverse time. it will actually calculate the time going up your game script, versus maybe a more traditional route is going down. Fun background on that is it's helpful for sports and like doing kickoffs and timing based off of when the game's going to start or when gates open. But we initially built that for SpaceX because they needed to have all of their timing around when those rockets were going to launch. That was the most important thing. So obviously it helps here as well. So that's really cool that you're using that there.
I might have to say like T-minus 10 minutes to showtime now to like feel like I'm
I totally say that. It's a thing. 100%.
I love it. But then yeah, from there, I do a find and replace. I use the magnifying glass up there. And like I said, last game we had played the Carolina Panthers, and then we were going to be playing the Los Angeles, I'm going to misspell something, Los Angeles Chargers. And I could find everything that says Carolina, and I can replace those with Carolina Panthers. So I would do that. I would search Panthers because there's certain things where we just have the team name, replace all of those. And those are like the big things that I would immediately knock out when I go to a new script, because I need to make sure. The other thing that I've honestly got caught on before was that was previously a day game, 325. So I need to do today with tonight. And so that replaces all my PAs that says today's game. I don't want it to be if we're talking at 6:50 at night, I don't want to say today, I want to say tonight. So I replace all of those, and that changes everything within the script as well. So the find and replace is a huge first step with everything, and it's really great, honestly.
Yeah, one thing with the find and replace that we've encouraged teams to do is that if there's a part in a PA that needs to change every single game, maybe using a special character on your keyboard, like the asterisk or something like that. And that way you can search for it, and then it's going to just populate a list of all the occurrences of that. And if you click the item number on the results of your search, it'll take you directly to the cell that contains that content.
Good idea. I'm gonna write that one down.
I've never actually used the find and replace for that purpose. A lot of our elements kind of have both today and tonight in them. So I think I'm going to have to start using that as an automatic replacement.
That's great.
Love it. And then just to kind of, Brian, you want me to jump into gem a little bit here?
Yeah, whatever you do next.
Yeah, so from there, I take our sponsored elements. This is all done by hand currently. And I make a grid of all of our breaks. We have 18 breaks. And I say, okay, here's my big items that I need: a wireless camera. I need our host our stage managers, prizing. Here are those bulk items. And then I start to assign them sections within the building. The Superdome is a very large building. So I assign sections, and then I kind of piece them together just on a piece of paper first to kind of get something in front of me of where everything makes sense within the script. From there, I have, believe it or not, gemmed out basically everything in our script, just to be able to have, I could take this entire element set here of Saints 2022, and that is my game script as I please. I've not noticed any lag or anything like that, which has been really good. So I think it's literally like 600 and something items maybe. So it's a little robust.
That is.
But it's helpful to have there. So
Kyle, let's kind of explain the lay of the land here. On the far left, what you're looking at, there's a bunch of blank item numbers there. I think that's because he's on a section of the game script where he doesn't have titles in there, but that is the actual game script that he's in currently. And there's a way to jump to a different game if you wanted to with that little drop down. That's helpful if you wanted to go refer to a previous game to see how you had things organized. And so you can do all of that jumping between game scripts right from within this modal. But let's assume that you want to keep working on this one. So you can scroll around. Actually, the only place that you can drag and drop, unfortunately, in ShowFlow, at least currently, it's probably our top feature request, is right here. So you can drag and drop elements on the left side if you wanted to reorganize. And then on the right side there, I don't know what's going on with the double scroll bar there, but that is the global element manager set. And so you can see that he's on the Saints 2022 element set. This is where you'd be able to pop between different element sets if you did have them. So you could refer back to a previous library, say it was a 2021 library. But if you want to work out of the current one, it's all there. You have the titles of your elements, and then you have the tags as well. So you can filter down by your tags if you wanted to just see a smaller list. And then we also have durations there. That's it. It's pretty clean and simple. And then from here, I'll just kind of pass it back over to you, Kyle. What do you do once you're at this point?
Yeah, so a lot of my stuff, I've got a piece of paper in front of me figuring out what's where. So let's look at Invisalign, Who Smiles Anyway. Previous game was in break 3. I know for this upcoming game, based off the paper I have, I want to put it into break 7. And so I move that into break 7, and then it starts to become a puzzle of, okay, if WWL NFL scoreboard was in break 7 for that game, where is that going? And then that's moving, and it's kind of moving all these big pieces around. So make the connection is something that I had in break 8. I try to alter things where it's first half, second half, game to game, to be able to give the sponsors some love appropriately. I can then put this, drag and drop that, boom, right into break 13. And then I know this military recognition wouldn't fit with that make the connection. So based off my sheet again, I could take that, and that's going to go into break 12 this week. So I'm able to physically make the entire script right on here with drag and drop. This is something that is probably my second favorite feature, is just being able to do everything right here in the gem. It's especially with Pelicans. Heather and I were kind of talking about this, where Saints, honestly, throughout the year, we're doing the same activations at every game because it's only 10 games. But with Pelicans, when we've got 42 home games with a preseason game and things that people are only contractually obligated to 8 or 10 or 12 times, it's just helpful to kind of have them over to the side here and moving them in as you need to. I do think it's really important, though, to make sure that people know to make sure you save out your global elements when they do change, which I'm happy to kind of show really quick. Say this People's Health Champion here, this video length is actually going to become 1:30. You hit the globe, and then I don't want to save as publish current version to, is that going to pop up and allow me? I don't want to actually change this, Brian.
If you don't want to publish it to other games, then
Just
I can do this, and I won't do it to this year's stuff. I'll be all right.
yeah, you can always cancel.
So yeah, then this shows you everywhere that this is at, in all of where this element lives. And so you can see it's in basically every game, literally every game. So I can publish it from the game that I'm at. And this is helpful, especially when you're working on future scripts and you are ahead of things, which more so with Pelicans we need to do. I'm sure Heather has to do as well. And so you're able to just take it and say, hey, from this game forward, this graphic number has changed, or this duration, or this PA has changed, and you're able to deselect and only say, hey, from game 6, game 7 on, this is where this actually lives and how it's changed. So that's really clutch for what we do there.
Yeah, there were a handful of options there on the global element menu when you were hovering over. Just know that if you're not a heavy global element manager user, we have a dedicated training session just for that. It lasts about 45 minutes. It's complicated maybe if you try to figure it all out yourself. So we highly recommend that training call. And at the end of this, we'll send a link over to everybody here in case you'd like to schedule that with Rick, our guy for that training.
Then yeah, I'm just, like I said, I'm just kind of jumping back into the gem, and I'm moving things. I'm dragging, dropping, moving as I need. And that's kind of how I do this to build the script here.
Yeah. So the items on the left that are colored purple, that indicates that is a global element. And so that's saved in the, what we call the well, or the global element manager. So you can see there that some of those are not global elements. And then on the right side, Kyle, I don't know if you can find an element that's actually in this game. it
I
may be
might be
that
on,
you're
it might be because it's, yeah, here you go.
Yeah, there you go. So the little one there will represent that, hey, that Bud Light cheers to that is actually in this game one time. If it were in there more than one, that one would represent how many times it's actually in this game. So that's helpful to see, like, you've already used this element, so maybe try a different one. Or if there's an element that you know you need to run, 6 times in a game, then those numbers will update there. So a little, maybe not come through too clean because it's so small in the screen share, but that's updating with the number of occurrences. Cool. I think that's pretty good for the global element manager. Sharif, do we have any questions on that came through?
Yeah, we don't have a question on the global element manager.
Okay.
We do have I think a good question that probably be good to address though. This one comes from Bradley. Ever thought about building a today/tonight toggle of sorts? So I think you're referring to Bradley, kind of global elements. So almost like probably like a tag in a way. So I don't know if you want to touch on that, Brian, on kind
I
of.
think that there is that would be an interesting approach to do like a toggle. We do have a template feature that Heather's workflow is slightly different than Kyle's, which is exciting because we're getting some variety here. And so the ability to do just that, I think, may be answered here when she goes. Any other
Sounds like a great
questions?
transition.
Yeah. Before we do the
Yeah, pretty
transition,
solid.
Kyle, let me ask you, how are you sharing this with your crew, and who are you sharing it with? For
Yeah,
each of the
so
games?
kind of do it a couple different ways. I'd use the guest pass for people internally, whether that be my bosses, whether that be sponsorship, anybody that really needs to see the script, I send the guest pass to them. But I also use a lot. We have a lot of users that we pay for with this. I have it where there's our PA announcers each have a user. So if they need to go in and they see a PA that they want to adjust phonetically, they can do that. I give them permission to be a contributor to allow them to do that. I'm not as territorial over the script as some people I know are. And so, because if I want to be able to say, hey, to my staff, hey, can you please make sure that the PA announcement for the color guard is right? And I have a staff member who books that. I want him to be able to just plug it right in. I mean, it's so easy to be able to have multiple people on there. So I don't really shy away from it. And it's nice to be able to grant the different permissions for that. So certain people can't screw it up. But those who need to get in there can get in there. But yeah, I'm printing a bunch on game day. But on game day itself, I'm not. My third favorite feature is the ability to unlatch your auto numbering. Because my script, and Heather, I'm curious to hear your side of this. My script changes tremendously throughout the game. Anytime that we score a touchdown, we blow off the break and we have to make up all that inventory that was scheduled, and we're moving stuff all over our game scripts. And so I turn off the auto item numbering, which then allows me to still make sure that the line item is attached to the number of the item, no matter where it is within the script. So what could be built, I'm sure Brian's about to do this, what could be built as line 4, 5, and 6, we might run that as 11, 9, 4, and that will still stay with that.
Yeah. So the item number is stuck to that particular row. Whereas if we were to have left that feature on, it would re-itemize, or the numbers would stay in sequential order. The other thing that you can do here is you can start with a different number if you wanted to. Some people like to work
hundreds. I didn't know that.
The thing is, though, because I turned that feature off, it did not automatically number the rest in sequential order. And so you can always go in and do some numbers here. You can even do points. So this could be like 6.1, for example, if you want to.
One thing I just would advise for everybody, and I learned this by trial and error the very first time I did show flow, is to duplicate your finalized script before you move anything. Because after the first game, moved a whole bunch of stuff. And then I went back to make the script for the next game, and I was like, oh crap, I don't have a hard templated version of this as I presented it when it was complete. So what I do is I make just an underscore game changes script, and that allows me to move all that stuff, but I still have that version that I printed as the initial version, which is really clutch.
That's good. So maybe a shortcut on that is the ability to just save a timestamp version.
Yeah.
So if you're in here on a Mac, it's Command. On a PC, it's Control, Command S. Whoops, I just hit Command R. That refreshed the whole thing. So Command S will allow you to save a timestamp. And then when you jump back out to your event dashboard here, if you go to Archived, it's going to show you all of the timestamped versions of that, or I'm sorry, under saved. It's going to show you a timestamp version of all of the rundowns that you saved in that event. But I like your approach too, so that you can rename it and maybe it's in a separate folder.
Yep.
So that's great. And then one of the other things that you mentioned, I think you mentioned your PA. Is your PA announcer using ShowFlow? Do they have that up on a monitor?
Yes, both teams, we use them. We have them on a monitor in featured view. And yeah, we were able to, one of our PA announcers for Saints has his iPad up with it, so he's able to jump around and not get screwed up with tracking me and all that stuff. So it's super, super helpful for us with that.
Cool. Yeah. So the featured view allows you to still see all of your items on the left here. But in the right, it's going to take over 2/3 of your screen, just one of the columns. The most common use case there would be the PA script. And you can see which rows actually have content with the little paragraph icon there. And so you can modify the size of this text, and then just double click in allows you to edit. So for your PA, that, like Kyle said, you're giving them the ability to go in and make edits here. You can give them a contributor permission, which in this view, the only thing they'd be able to edit is the actual script. They cannot edit any of the timing or any of the item titles or the order. That's information as well. So this is the most common view for PA reads. And then if you're using the show caller tracking piece, as you track into an item, the script will just appear right there. So you can actually control what's appearing on your PA screen so that they don't even have to worry about that stuff. All right. Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Kyle.
Yeah.
That was really great. Sharif, any questions that we want to give Kyle before we pass over to Heather?
Yeah, we don't have any questions right now.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Cool. Well, I think we answered all of them. All right, Heather, let's jump
Hello.
over to you. Thanks for being here today. Why don't you start by just sharing how you came to the position that you're in there at the Miami Marlins?
How I've come to be best friends with ShowFlow. Yes, my name's Heather. Thank you guys so much for letting me join. I'm very excited to be here. I've actually not been able to do any fun webinars or actually join any webinars. We've been so
Welcome.
busy.
Yeah.
So I actually got started in sports, in the college sports realm, you know, as most of us do. We find a love for, you know, the college hype when you're sitting at a football stadium. So I got started at Florida State University. Go Noles. We are big fans of our college sports up in Tallahassee, and we took every game very seriously. So we had something very similar scripting wise. We took that thing like the Bible for all of our football games. And then I got more into the broadcasting realm and did a lot of our engineering work there. So kind of took a little bit more on the back end side of it. And then when I joined the Marlins just not too long ago in 2020, got to come back into the more of the show and entertainment side of it. And obviously sports and COVID kind of changed the way that we, you know, build scripts, how we handle the processes. I think everyone during that time really got to update their process at that time, got to update, you know, what they want and how they want things to be, you know, new and updated and visually, as well as, you know, from a game presentation perspective. So I've taken on the role of writing our scripts along with a copywriter and some of our sponsors who give us some copy to use. And we really just run with it. And it's been pretty fun. 3rd season here, and we're halfway through. Homestand 9
awesome.
on the way.
That's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
and just kind of taking a look at different customer scripts. The Marlins are super organized. Love it.
Thank you.
And Heather does a little bit of a different workflow when it comes to building the next game script, where she's leveraging the templates as opposed to duplicating a previous game. So those are the two most common options. I mean, I don't know anybody that starts from scratch.
I give them mad props.
Yeah. So yeah, why don't you share your screen, Heather, and jump through starting on
Yeah.
your team dashboard.
Definitely. All right. So welcome to my dashboard. It is two things, nothing crazy. I do archive my events pretty quickly as soon as we're done with them, especially for our events here. As you can see, my dates are all wrong, but the events that we've had recently, in the past month or two, we'll put them in our events area, and then all of our games go into our game season. I organize by homestand. Obviously, what happened in homestand 1 is definitely not what is happening in homestand 9. So I just built out homestand 9 yesterday. I go every single game down the row. I really wish I could use more of Kyle's way of doing it and having a lot more documents and stuff in ShowFlow, but we use a lot of Microsoft Teams, a lot of Microsoft files. So a lot of our elements are really held on live tracking documents through there. So basically, I go by templates. So I'll typically start here. This is usually empty. So I'll jump into, let's do homestand 10. So I have all my dates in my folders for every homestand, just in case I forget, as well as, a lot of games in a row, you tend to forget. So 8/26 is probably a Friday. Most of our homestands start on a Friday. As you can see, I have obviously the templates that ShowFlow provides, and then my Monday through Friday template, as well as an opening day one. So
That's awesome. So you've got one for every day of the week.
every day.
What are some of the, other than the day, what are some of the differences between those templates?
Yeah. So I can jump into templates real quick and we can take a look at it that way. So my templates are really where I start. I treat those as, if we have elements. As I said, we have sponsorship elements that do run similar to Brian for the Pelicans, or similar to Kyle, sorry. Similar to Kyle for the Pelicans, we do have elements that run a certain number of games. So as you can see, I mark the number of games. That helps with the math of it all. Say a sponsor is sold for 20 games, I can say, all right, they're going on Thursday and Friday games. I'll know that that'll add up to 20. So I'll typically go in here. I'll check on my template this way. Definitely, it's a custom template. Try not to use it as a thing. Love that because sometimes I forget. My show is typically built out based off of either my doors opening. I'll throw those in here. Time normal gates open, and then my show start does the same that Kyle does, except I take mine by anthem. Our truck is very strict on anthem time not being after the 10-minute mark, so I'll make sure that our anthems are always at that just before the top of the 10-minute marks before our first pitch. In baseball, we're typically at the mercy of our pitchers being on time, so we're never on time for first pitch, and I think most of our friends know that work in baseball. So I always run this number as a hopeful wish. Our first pitch for a Thursday game is typically on a 6:40, so I'll set it up in that way. All of my templates, if I'll go into a Sunday template, for example, all of my templates are contingent on the typical first pitch time for those. So in this situation, my first pitches for Sundays are usually at 1:40. So in this scenario, my goal is to hit 1:40, 0 on the clock. And just like Kyle, I make everything by a very strict time, making sure it's all good on that end. And I definitely have never used the find and replace thing, but that is about to be my new saving grace for my Sunday games, my only day games,
Nice.
But as far as any new sponsors that come in, this is where I'll start. I'll start here in my templates to really kind of figure out in my global element manager. This is the 2020 season, so I'm going to jump into 2022. I'll definitely search it by what we have going on, or I'll go by the tags. So today is a Sunday game. I'll check all of my Sunday elements, see what I'm missing, see what, if it's actually for that day, I'll go check my live tracking documents to see if I actually have, for example, here, Tito's, it's on a Sunday, but only on a day where we have dogs in the ballpark. So if it's not a day where we have dogs in the ballpark, I won't add it. And if there's a pregame parade, that's another element that is a contingent factor. So if there isn't one, it will not be included. But as you can see, most of my elements for Sunday are in the game and they are accounted for. I typically know where most of them will go based on, past shows, based on timing, all of that. Baseball, we have to entertain fans for 18 innings of 2-minute breaks. So we do make it a point to, get a good, based on the timing that we typically get. It's never always like the perfect number of time, but we always like to try to make a good prediction based on, how a game usually goes. So
you have a template for every day of the week, and it looks like you have, if you want to just pop down your tags, you have a tag for every day of the week as well. And what are some of the other tags that you've got there?
So I've got tags for a couple other things. Our Saturday games, we also have our City Connect jerseys, but there are, at the beginning of the season, we did not have our City Connect jerseys revealed. So that was a tag that helped me, pull anything that was just for Saturday versus for legacy. So the two elements that I really have that are legacy specific are we have a different Take the Field video, and we have a sponsored game that uses our City Connect merchandise instead of regular merchandise. So we have on the Wednesday game, that one is a regular merchandise. So that same game is noted here for regular and legacy. And then Heritage Days are, we have certain sponsors that also do just for our special ticket offer nights. We do, Dominican Heritage, we do Venezuelan Heritage, we do special big nights like that. They also tend to fall on a Saturday. So most of the time I'm looking at both of these tags on the same day. I'm also looking at a Saturday tag kind of thing. So a lot of them are the same but different in that element. They just make sure that I'm adding up all of the correct elements, and in case there isn't a Heritage Day, then all right, that heritage is cut, can remove all of those. And I can also check for that day if there is any of those heritage elements in there, it'll show me, and that way I know to remove them. So on my Saturday games, as you can see here, I'll go into, I have a doubleheader this homestand. So this is typically where I'll check all of these things. My 110 game is actually not a post-game concert that is sponsored because it is not a heritage for the day game. So I typically just go in here, delete the row, and now it's gone. And I'll just make sure to update that with a different post-game concert hit. So it's always those little things like that where I'll make those small adjustments in that area. This is where I typically live during a game. So we have our floater elements, as you can see, that do tend to come in and out of the game depending on days of the week, depending on elements like that. So these are where we hold our drop-ins, our floaters, anything where if a pitching or a mound visit is going too long and we can't just sit there and show them, we'll take advantage of these elements to really promote something, whether it's a marketing request, a sponsor request. They're typically always living in my floater elements. That way they're easily editable. So if I brought in a Bark at the Park promo, I can always go down to it. Oh, I'm on templates. I can always go down to it in that area and kind of base my show depending on those extra elements. So in this scenario, my templates are really my point to start, and I make sure that all of my sponsors that are for those certain days start on those days. So that's really where I take advantage of the template building of it. Duplicating a show for 81 baseball games is definitely not possible with how many different sponsors they sell for a certain amount of games, certain amount of things. It would be impossible to fit that many in one game. So we really do it based on, personal math, in that scenario. I still have to do math for some of those, but yeah, that's always how we started off. So in this case, I'll start a game 826 versus whoever we're versing. Good question. I don't actually know. I build them typically after the homestand for that reason. I do build them one homestand at a time. I will always update the date and time accordingly. It doesn't really mess with my show because I do build them from the template. So the template will pull the data that is already set up for those times. So even if I put the time here, it's only going to mess with my title time. And that's always just a friendly reminder to me to be like, oh, if you forget that the game's actually at 6:10 instead of 6:40, it'll show it to me right here. I don't typically have it visible, but this is normally what I'll double check. And then that's how I'll adjust batting practice times, door times, any like contingency factors that would go into before our show starts. I make note of them here. Sometimes we have events that are going on that will kind of make note of in the script for engineers that come in, techs that are here. Like Kyle, we also print. We print everything. All of our scripts are printed. I wish more of my crew would get on the digital side, but we're not there yet. One of these days they'll get there. My PA announcer is my one main one that does the digital, but he does not choose to track me. It is my biggest pet peeve.
That's interesting. Yeah, we
That's
always get that
mind-blowing.
question.
Mind blowing. He refuses.
We get the question a lot, like how much of the crew is going to adopt this for like a digital thing? What kind of devices should we get them? And our advice is usually don't buy any new tech, any hardware, because you'll learn what it is over the course of your first season, like who's gonna use it live or have a desire to use it live. And so we have, I don't know how many, but it's not a ton of teams that are running paperless events, but there are teams that are running paperless events. The Charlotte Hornets, I'm sure they still print some, but they told us that they're saving thousands of dollars every season from the paper savings just because they're really pushing digital. They have monitors in their pregame meeting rooms that they're bringing ShowFlow up on. They have it in the tunnels going out to the courts so that people can refer to the monitors that's just tracking along with ShowFlow. So
that's awesome. I gotta talk to Emily about
that's so smart. Yeah, dang. I think that is like a big factor, at least because most of our crew does adjust. We have 20 to 23 individuals in control room, and then all of our camera operators, our field managers, our handlers, those people all have to be on the field or at least in the audience. So I think that's always the difficult part, is trying to relay any kind of changes to them. So especially during our pregame elements like that, that's always, I have converted quite a few people in the control room for sure. We do have tablets that we do provide to our technical director, our CG operator, because at the end of the day, the biggest difficulty that we have is my scripts are not finalized ever. Even during the game, they're not finalized. So I can send these out. I typically send out our scripts via PDF, email to anyone who needs a script. All of my sales groups, a lot of these are, first pitches and stuff. They're all sales liaisons, anthems, first pitches. All of those run in my production notes. So I'll show you, for example, 8/13 is a very busy day for us this homestand. So I do typically put on the top what's going on that day, anything that like people should pay attention to. For graphics wise, all of our City Connect items do change all of our logos out on all of our boards. So we always tell our crew, please check. Obviously, parades, radio shows, all of that. And then my production notes is where I stick all of my individuals who claim who have sold these elements. So I have a performance, it's by one of our sales guys named Brad. So in the case that my field managers cannot find Brad, we at least know who's in charge of it, and we can go get a hold of Brad and be like, hey, your activation should be here in 10 minutes. Please make sure they're here, etc. So this is always elements that they typically provide copy for. As we know, copy is always a fun thing to get and edit. So we always have to go into the script and readjust some of these to make it more readable and make it sound good to really highlight what they're doing. So in a lot of these in my global elements, they're again just templates. I will never know what my pregame ceremony is going to be about. So when I put these in, I can throw in another, recognition to show you. So I have a designated 1:30 time that I'll take a wild guess on. And it always starts with this as my base. And then whenever they provide a copy, or if they ask us to make copy, we will make the adjustments accordingly. And just like Kyle's, mine will update my start time accordingly, down 1.5 minutes to start our show. And I'll delete it because I already have too many ceremonies, and all of my start times for those will then adjust. Obviously, my run through is normally by template. I'll always try to make at the very least templates of any elements like that. We do rely a lot more heavily on, what sponsors will provide to us in that element, and even they don't know what those times will be. So any of these kinds of elements that they'll add some extra timing to, that'll adjust our time, but we always know that we need to be at 6:30 or at 7:00 in this case. We need to be out of the anthem. So that's always our number one contingency for baseball, is out of respect for the truck show as well as our show. We always want to make sure we're good on those times in that area. So a lot of my things are in that semblance. I can't truly build out much as far as those little things, but once I get down into my show is typically where a lot of things really hold true. So I normally stick to this area during a show. I am our show caller on game days, so I sit next to my PA announcer and I tap him and I say the words. So he
Awesome.
yeah, so he typically will look at this. He doesn't really change the look of it. We go by item numbers a lot of the time, or the title of it. He knows a lot more than what he's saying. So if I tell him, hey, we're on check mobile ordering, he'll do his nice little scroll down and he'll read the PA copy here. He's also on an iPad. He truly loves his little iPad. So
Hey, Heather, if
Go
you
ahead.
don't mind, I know we have a few minutes left, and there's a question that
Go ahead.
someone wanted to ask you and Kyle. So if you wouldn't mind, just both of you guys just taking 30 seconds each. How do you organize and show flow for unexpected events that require you to be audible? So I guess communicate the change audibly. And how about known scenarios like winning versus losing?
On baseball end, we always put those contingencies at the very end as far as winning, losing scenarios. Our 8th and 9th innings are typically where we hold elements on contingency if winning or if losing. I'll always live update on this end for my crew in the control room. So if we are losing, we will not run a defensive rally video. I'll just simply delete it. And I'll be like, instead, we will do the latter, which in my contingency on here, it always typically mentions, if winning or if losing. So I'll put those elements in that way. And then for our final score elements, we do put win or loss. So it is not as quick or hasty of a last minute change, last minute adjustment. Just say the copy that is for this contingent factor.
Awesome.
Same thing similarly for me, that I have in-game floaters. I have it listed on my stuff just at the very bottom, but I also use this kind of one sheeter I call my play calling sheet. It's probably hard to see, but I actually take this and I build it line items, so I'm able to move things very easily visually for me, and then I call out my numbers to be able to say to my staff, hey, we're going 163, 145, 167. And so I use this pretty religiously as part of my show calling on game day.
Awesome. Thanks. All right, Brian, I'll pass it back to you.
Yeah, thank you, Heather, for walking us through that workflow. I love that both of you have pretty different approach to things, but it seems like you are each in a very good rhythm with how you do it. Obviously, baseball is very different. You almost do as many home games in a homestand as Kyle does all season.
Good jokes.
Yeah. All right, I think we're going to wrap it there, everybody. So thanks again, everybody, for taking the time today. We are going to send the recording out, so be looking for that. If you're not a customer, we'd love to get in touch with you. You can reach out to us on our website or by going to the link that Sharif just dropped in the chat. If you are a customer and you liked what you saw, please give us the feedback. We want to do more of these things, but we want to know from you that this is helpful. There's other areas that we could dive deeper into, like timing, and I don't know, how you run your games live. We also have the ability to schedule additional training calls with Rick if you want to take a deeper dive into the Global Element Manager as well. So with that, thank you, Kyle. Thank you, Heather.
Thanks, y'all.
This has been super
Thanks
helpful.
all.
And for ShowFlow, we'll be in touch. See you, everybody.